Hey everyone, this is Steven. Today I'm going to introduce to you the repertoire I'm going to be presenting over the next few weeks or months or whatever. And my plan in this repertoire is to always go for queenside play right from the get-go whenever possible. So just to give you a taste of this, after c4, c5, white will play g3, bishop g2, knight c3, knight c6, and right now, instead of continuing development normally, white's immediately going to go for a3, e6, and now rook b1 with the idea to expand on the queen side. And this idea works against a lot of black's defenses. It works against e5. It works against the Anglo-Indian defenses. It works against immediate g6. It works against f5. So it works against a lot of black's defenses, and that's one big advantage to this. Even if you don't play this type of plan a lot, it's useful to know. So to show you a few more lines, after e5, we're going to play g3, knight f6, bishop g2. By the way, don't worry about remembering the lines because I'm just giving a quick overview in this video, and in other videos I'll go into a lot more depth into each line. d5 is the most common, though there are other alternatives. Knight c3 right away hits the knight. Knight b6. And here we're going to play d3, bishop e7, bishop e3 right away to be developing toward the queen side. Castles, rook c1, another piece is freed. And white will often here continue by pushing the queenside pawns, sometimes with a4, but more often with a3 and b4. One thing white might play is knight f3, knight d2, and knight e4 or c4. Otherwise, another maneuver might be knight e4, knight c5. And note, for example, if white plays a3 or black plays a5, just to stop white's plan, white can trade on b6. I'm not sure if this move would be the best, but it's definitely an idea, crippling black's structure and creating a nice hole or square on b5. Another line where this works again is the Indian lines. So for example, if you don't like getting into the normal theory against the King's Indian defense players, you might just want to play d3. On move 5, there are other moves that are good, but in this repertoire I'll be showing d3 and then immediate rook b1, just planning to play on the queen side. And because the center is so flexible, it is often harder for black to get the usual e5, f5, f4, g5 type of attack in. Or he might, but it's often less effective because white, for example, could play e3 and f4 just to block. Black might stop white's play on the queen side, and white could play a3, insisting on it anyway. Now the main two lines where it doesn't work, b6, it might not work so good, but that's not the most common move and probably not best. c6 is one decent move where it doesn't work so good. So what I'll be presenting instead, I'll just be presenting a normal, a standard move, knight f3. And knight c3 instead wouldn't make the most sense because of d4 hitting the knight, gaining space. After knight f3, black will often trade on the queen side, trade on c4. White can just castle, knight bd7, queen c2 hitting the pawn, knight b6, a4, and white is threatening a5, and white will win the c4 pawn. Have quite a free position, and often white has pressure on the queen side anyway. The other main line where white where it doesn't make so much sense to play just every move toward the queen side, is after e6, but still white will often get queenside play, and the line I'll be presenting is once again knight f3 rather than knight c3, which is met by d4. So after knight f3, black plays bishop e7, white can castle, and now I recommend transposing into the Catalan. If you don't like this line or the one against c6, I will probably be presenting alternatives as well that are maybe theoretically not as strong, but more uncommon, and something that just to give you an alternative. But the Catalan often results in queenside play for white. Black usually trades unless he goes into a closed Catalan. White will play knight e5. This isn't the most common move, but it is a pretty nice move. I like to play it over the board. Most opponents aren't prepared for it. It just plans to recapture the pawn, and white will have two center pawns, more space, and a whole lot easier development. It's rather hard for black to develop his queen side. Like I said, most players aren't prepared for it very well, and knight c6 is actually the main move. If they've not prepared for this, they probably are not going to play that move, because after knight c6, b takes c, black's pawn structure is crippled. White probably won't take the pawn right away because it just kind of helps black get developed. However, white will have a lot of pressure on these pawns, and I think it's quite fun to play. So, why might you choose repertoire like this? Well, first of all, when you have a plan to expand on the queen side right away in quite a few lines, you save a lot of time learning the repertoire, and since it's based on ideas rather than so much concrete theory, you'll probably remember it fairly easily. It does have theory, of course, but the theory is based on ideas more than computer evaluations of this move is plus 0.2 or 0.1 or whatever. It is sound. I won't be presenting anything that's losing or anything. Now, it might theoretically give black equality in some lines, but probably with best play, all lines that are sound are going to lead to a draw. So this immediately gives you a practical edge, though, because your opponent is probably not going to be familiar with it. And I am USCF rated 2150 right now. I've played this over the board. And I've had good results so far. And so I hope this repertoire will be interesting for you, and I hope you'll come back for more videos. So feel free to like and subscribe. Also, I will be posting the PGNs of all lines, and I will be presenting some games just to illustrate some points as well. And the PGNs will always be on the EnglishOpening.com.